Okay, well, we want to welcome everyone to the Knightson Elementary School District Board meeting. We're going to call the meeting to order at 6:48 p.m. and roll call. We're all present except for Miss Provan. We think she's joining us later, and we will do the Pledge of Allegiance.
I have the flag. I can
Okay.
share my screen. Let me see here.
Yeah, I'm gonna do this, and then we'll do our Pledge of Allegiance. Okay.
All right.
Okay.
Let me know when you see the flag.
We see the flag.
All right.
Let's everybody begin.
All right. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America
and to the
republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible,
with liberty and justice for all. All right.
Okay. All right. We had a closed session at 5:30, and we have nothing to report out from that. And now we will move on to the superintendent's comments.
Well, it's been a busy week or two. At our last meeting, it was our last meeting bidding Mr. Whitty a fond farewell. He's relocated with his wife up in Reading and has started his new position. With that, we've posted for the position of principal at Old River and special education director. That position application timeline will close on Monday the 14th at 4 p.m. We'll do some paper screening and then set up interviews. Our goal is to have a new principal in place by the time we come back from October break. With that being said, anybody who's under contract right now that we hire, we'd have to work with their district that they're under contract with to have a transition plan on their way out of that district and into ours. So, but we can still go ahead with our process and go through the interview and board approval process, and then we'd have to work with whatever district that person is still employed with on a transition time out of theirs and into ours. So exciting times in the Knightson School District, and so we're looking forward to bringing on another administrator, and we will have
great.
Stakeholder engagement in terms of the first round of interviews, and then the second round we'll push forward 3 candidates, and then myself and 2 board members will interview the 3 candidates and make the final selection. So it's going to be an interesting couple of weeks.
Yeah, it's going to be exciting. Okay. Principal comments, and I guess that's all you for right now, whatever.
Yeah, I can handle it. Knightson School right now is finishing up their wiring project. So we're going to have what they call PoE, which is power over Ethernet, in all of our classrooms, meaning that the one PoE plug we had ran our phones, but now we can run many more devices within our classrooms because we're going to have power to all of our internet jacks. And also we're going to have accessibility in every one of our classrooms, which is going to be hugely important. So rather than running from one access point in a classroom that's 2 or 3 rooms away, every room will have their own access point, which will give us much greater connectivity for when the kids do come back. And we'll have more devices, more connectivity, and we're going to continue to build off the technology training that we've had because of distance learning. We're not going to regress backwards. So this is going to be huge step forwards for Knightson School and our district.
Good. Anything happening in Old River?
Old River. Again, want to welcome Mr. Rick Melgoza as the interim principal for Old River. He's a familiar face. He was our counselor for last year and has come out of retirement again to help us out by being the interim principal there. If there's any Old River families on, if you have any questions or concerns, you can reach out to Mr. Melgoza. He's in the front office there with Miss Ashley. And Mr. Melgoza has been doing a great job reaching out to families and taking care of that principal role over there at Old River as we're transitioning to get a new administrator in there. So, Mr. Melgoza, if you're out there, thank you for your service to the district, and we appreciate your help. So,
Definitely. Okay. Do we have any board member comments tonight? Anyone have anything?
I can't think of any.
No one else? Okay, moving on. We'll go on to approve the minutes for the August 26, 2020 board meeting. I need a motion.
Yeah.
I'll move to approve the minutes from the August 26th board meeting.
Okay,
I'll second that.
okay. So Smith made the motion, Williams second, and now we're going to go all in favor.
Aye.
Okay. Aye.
Aye.
Okay, I think I heard 4 ayes. Motion passes. We go to the Knights and Parent Teacher Club. I don't think did anyone send an email or anything that they needed to tell us?
I didn't get any from either parents club. I do
Okay.
know that both are actively looking for ways to have fundraisers and be involved with the student and parent community. It's just really difficult to do given the situation that we're in with distance learning. It's really hard to have a fundraiser when we can't congregate directly.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, we'll move on to the consent agenda. By a single motion, the board approves the items or actions which reflect application of board policy and California Ed Code. Any item marked consent may be removed from the list at the option of a board member or the superintendent and acted on separately. Do we have any questions or anything about the consent agenda?
I'll move approval of the consent agenda.
Okay.
I'll second
I'll
that.
second.
Okay. All right, Williams made the motion, and I'm not sure who seconded it. Was it Tom? Was it you?
I think I got in before Jan did, but I'm not sure.
Okay. Okay, we had a ray. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, motion passes. Oh, I thought I heard. Now motion passes. Do we have any public input at all tonight? Anyone want to give us a shout out from your Google Meet computer? No one?
Haven't received any.
There wasn't? Okay. All right, we're going to go on to the board agenda items. A public hearing regarding sufficiency of textbooks and learning materials for the 2020-2021 school year.
Yeah, we had to have a public hearing to make sure that we had sufficient materials. Well, we sent out notification to the staff, making sure that they had everything that they need to be successful this school year. We did have to put in another order of textbooks, or not textbooks, of consumables, just to round out what we had. We did receive those. Our librarian, Sherry Mernan's been doing a great job of keeping us up to speed on our curriculum orders. And I'm really happy that, as our librarian, she's really embraced that role of helping out with consumable curriculum and making sure that we have all the textbooks and materials that we need. So I believe this is an action item to approve the public hearing for the sufficiency of textbooks and learning materials.
Okay. Well, I'll make the motion.
Do we need to open the public
We
hearing?
moved to open it, I think, yeah.
Oh. Okay.
Yeah, I'll move to open the public hearing on
Sorry.
the textbooks and learning
Okay.
materials.
I'll second that.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
I
Aye. Okay, so the public hearing's open.
Madam President, we did not receive any public comments regarding this item, so you could request a motion to close it.
We'll close it. We're done. Okay. Thank you, Diane. Thank you. Okay. So now we need to close the hearing.
I'll move to close the public hearing.
Okay.
I'll second that.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Okay, motion passes. The public hearing is now closed. And then now we're going on with the agenda item. So now we're going to vote on the item, the public to approve the textbooks and learning materials.
Yeah.
Got it. Okay.
And this is an annual resolution that comes through regarding the sufficiency of textbooks and instructional materials. It's to get board approval that we've checked with our teaching staff that we have appropriate materials to teach our students.
Okay.
It is an action item.
Okay. Consider approval of the resolution 090920A, sufficiency of instructional materials in compliance with Education Code 60119.
I'll move approval of resolution 090920A.
I'll second that. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Aye.
Aye.
Okay, we heard all the ayes. Motion passes. We're going to consider approval of the FY 2019-2020 unaudited actuals. I can never say those two words together.
I believe Ms. Friedman, you have a
You're on. Yep, we got our.
Can you hear me now? Okay.
oh, we can hear you.
All right. So each year we close the books as of June 30th. That work takes some time for us to complete. So by September 15th, we are obligated to give our ending fund balance to the County Office of Ed, basically reporting where all of our income and expenses went to. So right now, we have the unaudited actual report, general fund and revenue expenditures. I'll give you an update on the student enrollment data, the historical financial data and other funds, and what's on the horizon. Oops. So this financial report is for the period of July 1st to June 30th. It's unaudited because right now we have just closed the books, and then our auditors will come in and go through all of the major items to make sure that the books have closed properly. We'll have coming up, we'll do the first interim for the 2020 school year, or 2021 school year, and then we'll have our audit report in January and our second interim in March. And this is a cyclical financial outlook for every district in the state of California. We all have to have these standard reports that we have to put together each year at specific time periods to comply with the mandates from the state. So in our revenue, and we're talking restricted and unrestricted accounts, our LCFF source, the money that we get from the state, is $5.5 million. Our federal dollars is 254-ish thousand, and from the state we received 548, and our local revenues was 482 and some change. So we're at 7,069,333 of this LCFF source at the top. 116. Excuse me, that is not right there. I have too many ones here. It's 166,470 is restricted money that comes to us for special education. So that one's off. I apologize for that. Typo. Yeah. So on the LCFF unrestricted sources, there's three different pots of money. We have the state aid, and then this right here, taxes the 2.4 million, that is from property taxes. And since I've been the CBO in this district over the last 6 years, that has gone up for us. The property tax revenues are coming in at a higher rate than what they had been. But when the property tax rate goes up, the state aid rate goes down. So we never really get any additional money. It's just which pot of money is it coming from. So our total LCFF is 5.244, and that's the majority of the money that we receive in the district office. Okay. For the 1920 salaries and benefits, we spend about 82% of our entire budget is spent on the salaries and benefits of our employees. A total of 4.8 million is spent towards our staff. Other expenditures that we have books and supplies, which is maybe, I want to say it's like 12% of our overall budget. So there's not a lot of places to cut if we were needing to cut anything for our to make our balance, ending fund balance higher. Our services and other operating costs is $68,943. Capital outlay, we don't spend a lot of money on capital outlay. This, I think, was the oven in the kitchen that we spent a high dollar figure. Anything over $5,000 is considered capital outlay. This $60,000 is the money that the general fund contributes into the cafeteria program to cover the salary and benefits of our cafeteria food program and as far as the health and welfare of our employees, their pay. So the other part of our budget, we've spent 181 on other things besides staff. Now, in the services and other operating costs, I did this a few years ago for everyone to kind of give you an idea of where that money is going. So this year we've spent $43,000 on communications for telephone and internet. We have dues and memberships. It's $13,000. Our insurance went up by, I think, 8%. So we were almost at $65,000 for that. Operations and utility services, $208,000. But this is the big one right here. This professional and consulting services, $587,000. Program direct costs, very minimal. Rental, leasing, and repairs. That's basically all the repair work that we do on any, our sprinkler system or our alarm system or those sort of things. So $146,000 on that. We didn't spend a lot of money on conferences because, COVID. So this is our $1,068,943 in professional development. But what I'd like to do is drill down on this professional consulting services.
Yeah.
Because that starts showing you where the bulk of the money is being spent. So on field trips and assemblies, we spent $25,000 on that. We spent $22,000 on legal services as a whole through the district, which is incredible.
Excellent.
Yeah, we are that cost is so low now. Maintenance and operations, we're at $101,000. So, we're not hiring people to do the work. Our employees are doing the work. We're buying supplies to do the work. This number used to be huge for us. But our special ed services went up last year quite a bit because $411,000. But if you remember, we didn't have a psychologist at the district, so we were paying for an outside service. If we could have hired someone, that a lot of that money would be sitting in staffing, salaries, health and welfare. Same for speech language pathologist or a occupational therapist. So in that special ed services right there, that $411,000, all of that money would be in personnel if we had the staff to cover those needs. But since we don't, we have to pay someone else on the outside to provide those services to our students. Our technology services went way down, although we've done a ton of work in our technology area. Because we got the big 2.0 grant, we didn't have to pay money in upgrading our connection, our internet connection between the county and the district. And we're still in the process of getting there as far as getting our switches up to speed and everything. But our technology services, paying someone on the outside, has gone down tremendously. And we're buying things like devices and that sort of stuff for our students for learning loss mitigation and getting them connected and that sort of thing. So that's just ratcheted up for us in the 2021 school year. And time will tell on that, how much we're going to be investing in our students' devices and our teacher devices. And then just other miscellaneous services, $5,000. It's, very small. When I do the budget in June, one of the reports that comes out is an estimated actuals. And I like to compare what was estimated on the actuals to what our true actual is, and then see what the difference is, to see how far off we were by budget, because we still have to close the books. We still have money in purchase orders committed to being paid and that sort of thing. So I like to look at the differences. And a couple of them that I wanted to show you is our state money went down slightly. Our local money also went down. So we projected that we'd have $36,000 more in revenue than we actually took in. So that's something to keep an eye on. But then here we had the exact same thing happen, with the exception of our classified staff. We had $58,000, almost $59,000 in savings on certificated salaries. And that is because the majority of our certificated salary savings is right here in special education, or in, the 58,263, that number in the restricted column is special education salary, but it's substitute salaries that we didn't spend the money because the last trimester of the year we were not in school. And so we weren't having a bunch of IEPs. Everything was virtual. We weren't having, having to bring in subs to cover classes for people to go participate in an IEP. The classified salaries went up slightly, and that could be because of extra hours for cleaning the site and stuff like that. The benefits went down again, because the employer costs, if we're not paying as many people, if we're not paying as many people, we have less employer costs. So it just makes sense that the benefits would also show a savings. We have a show of savings in books and supplies of $27,000, almost 28, and almost $97,000 in services and other operating costs. And that could be in any one of those buckets that I had showed you before, as far as the special education area, or any of those restricted accounts could be some of this money. And then also here, we probably $75,000 we had unrestricted. We may have seen some savings from PG&E, propane, any one of those other operating costs, because we didn't have students here. It's just cheaper to run a school without a bunch of people on it. So overall, it looks like our unassigned total, our ending fund balance went up by $188,000. 100,169 is in the unrestricted column, and 88,436 is in the restricted column. So that we wouldn't be able to spend that money on anything except what it's earmarked for. And here's a list of the restricted reserves. We still have some money from the California Clean Energy Jobs Act that we finished that work 2 years ago, but we're trying to close it out. And so there's $3,700 in there. This Prop 20 restricted lottery, that is $84,000, and that needs to be spent on textbooks and things like that. So, you know, if we have an adoption of some program like we did the STEM scopes, you know, we could use that money in that way. In special education, we have built a reserve of $151,655. And this is because we had seen such a spike going up in special ed services and costs that I know a few years ago, it was the board's desire to make it to at least $80,000, $100,000 of reserve. And we made it there. And then I, you know, asked the superintendent how we want to handle the difference. And, you know, one child coming into the district that has severe needs that money can go away quickly. So we upped it to the $151,655 right now. And, you know, that's a good thing. That's planning for some future, something that we can absorb in the future if there's a need. Our classified staff development, we've spent a little bit of that money, but it was hard to do staff development when no one can be on campus. So we didn't get to do all the things we wanted to do. We have a COVID LEA response fund. We got $10,500 in that, and so the remaining balance now, the remaining reserve is $7,280. We have the low performing student block grant, and some of our learning loss mitigation. I know the board had put together a plan that we were going to have interventions and those sort of things to work with our students. But now in the environment that we're in, we believe we can utilize the $62,000 on devices for students, hotspots for students, so that they can be connected from home. That's very important. That's the only way we can reach out to them and get them involved in school. Our ongoing major maintenance is, there's a reserve of $51,000 in there. We have the local reserves of the pool. This $9,178 is going to go back to the Knights and Parent Teacher Club because the pool program is closed, and this money is the remaining balance in that account. We have the local sports program. This year we didn't collect the $20,000 for the sports program because we weren't having sports. So we have almost $5,000 left in there. When we come back to school and start up the sports program again, we'll need to, you know, beef up the sports reserve so that we can afford the program. Childcare, there is almost $81,000 in the childcare program at this point. We had a lot of plans to do a lot of things with the kids after school program, and we just couldn't get it done once COVID hit. So, you know, once the program comes back, we want to have enriching activities for the kids for after school so that they will enjoy their time in childcare. And then we have other restricted resources, $664,000 or $6,649. And so that gives us our total restricted reserves. Our enrollment last year was actually 605 students, but because we were in a decline, the state gave us hold harmless funding for the 1920 year based on the 2018-19 year. So we got more money having less students. And so we've held that money off to the side because, so hold harmless money, because we want to make sure that we can slowly reduce staffing as needed if our student count doesn't come up again. Because, you know, we want to keep people on in case we have a enrollment bubble that comes into the district, but we need to slowly reduce spending if that doesn't happen. So, and I think, Harvey, we're at 605 again right now at this point, 66 or something like that, 606. The numbers aren't back up to 632 as far as I know. But that enrollment, the lock-in date is going to be the Friday before our fall break. So it's in September, I think September 25th or something like that. So at that time, that's when we count how many students we have, and we will have our CBED enrollment count. The thing is that for the 2021 school year, even if our enrollment count is greater than it was in the 1920 year, we won't get any additional funding because the governor is not providing increased funding for growing districts at this time. We're going to be set at what we should have received in the 1920 school year. We don't even get the hold harmless funding from the 18-19 school year. So, you know, any students above the 605 count of students is just an increased cost, but we won't receive any increase in funding. This is a cafeteria account. So our beginning balance was $16,780. In revenues, we took in $80,000 in revenue. Usually that's around $100 and something thousand, but because we didn't have students eating food, we didn't have free and reduced money coming back from the state for that sort of program. We ended up having expenditures of $141,000. We still had to kick down the $60,000. I could have reduced the $60,000 to because we did end up with an ending fund balance of almost $15,000. But this year, I think, is going to be even more of a contribution into the cafeteria fund from the general fund because we are not serving very many meals. Here's our capital, our facilities. These are developer fees. So our beginning balance was $280,000. We brought in $91,000. We had some expenditures. I believe these were really expenditures in the legal arena because we had some developers activity going on out by the Summer Lakes area. And so our ending fund balance though is $363,118. So on the horizon, we will have our audit. We're going to meet with the auditors in October. We're going to have our CBED count locked in at the end of September, but you know the date for most school districts who are not on break is in October. Our first interim report will be presented to you at the first meeting in December, or the only meeting in December. And then in December, we'll have our P1 attendance reports. That's all up in the air right now because as far as the information that I've been getting from the state, we're not going to have attendance reporting, the traditional attendance reporting. And we're making a lot of changes around that based on what the state is mandating. So we'll have something new we get to learn how to do. CalPAD's Fall 1 certification, that is where we send all of our data to the state and about our students, and that gets locked in in December. And then I'll be back with you guys in January to do the audit report with our auditors, Christy White. And then Harvey and I will get to go to, probably virtually, to the governor's 21-22 budget in January. Does anybody have any questions? So this is an action item to approve the unaudited actuals.
Okay. So nobody has any questions or anything? Cindy, I do.
Okay.
You said the sports program, the money's just going to sit there and wait for the sports for next year.
Right.
Is that right? And what about the pools? The pool money just going to sit there and wait to see what happens, or?
I believe we can do whatever is decided, but I believe there was a lot of talk around the KPTC getting the money back in their books. They can still section it off as though it's earmarked for the pool, but I believe they want to have the money in their bank
In case
account
they want to
versus
do.
in ours.
Sense.
Okay. Just checking. Okay.
Mhm.
Okay. Do we have a motion?
I'll move approval of the unaudited actuals.
I'll second.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Okay. Motion passes. And we move on to item number 4, consider approval of resolution 090920B, adoption of gain limit.
So the GAN limit
Robin,
is the
just
GAN
for the
limit-
record,
oh yeah.
just for the record, I joined on page 3 of the actual the presentation Cindy just provided for us.
Okay.
Thank you, Member Provan. I noted that in the record.
Okay, thank you.
So the GAN limit is an annual adoption of basically it establishes a limit that proceeds that proceeds on taxes may be appropriated for any given year to schools. And it's basically last year's limit that's multiplied by the percentage of state per capita personal income growth. And it's multiplied again by the change in the population of our area. It basically regulates the amount of tax money that we get. So it doesn't fluctuate too greatly from one year to the next. So we have a really booming year. It really is controlled by our population and the overall health of the economy of the state. So it is a resolution that takes board approval.
I'll move approval of resolution 090920B, adoption of the GAN limit.
I'll second that motion.
Okay.
Second it.
All right. Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Okay. Motion passes. Okay, and now we move on to COVID-19 update, information only.
Not a whole lot right now. I know in our last board meeting, we talked about the waiver process. One of the things I wanted to bring up is that in my last report, I did report out that with a waiver, it's 25%. I was actually incorrect on that, so I do want to go on record and correct myself. The 25% stands on in-person instruction to bring kids on campus for IEP 504 services and intervention services. I have an infographic I want to share with you from the County Office of Education and the Contra Costa County Public Health Department. So just give me a moment while I share my screen. Let me know when it comes up. All right. So this is the timeline scenarios for in-person instruction. One of the questions that has come about is, can we have kids on campus being that we're in distance learning right now? And the answer is yes. We can have some kids on campus, and I say some, but it has to be very regulated. So with a waiver, it's only good for TK and 6, TK through 6. That means our 7th and 8th graders would not be allowed on campus, even with a waiver. We have to have in-person instruction in stable groups of no more than 14 students. And that just means that we have an AM and a PM cohort, and those kids do not interchange. It's A group and B group, and they do not change from A to B group. We got to have a waiver from Public Health and the California Department of Public Health, and we went into what it takes to get one of those. It can be submitted while we're in the purple status, and purple is the most extreme status on their color rating. And then with that, all staff should be tested at least once every 2 months. So that's sending 50% of your staff to get tested each month. And right now it's 4 to 5 days return on those testing timelines. So if we send staff out, get tested, and we brought them back and somebody comes back 5 days later is positive, well, they've had 5 days to be in contact with multiple people on campus, and then we got a contact tracing nightmare on our hands. Really, that testing timeline needs to get down to 24 hours. So we send somebody on Monday to get tested, and then Tuesday they come back with the results. That would be ideal for the waiver process. So the 25% that I was talking about comes in this scenario here. Students that need targeted intervention and specialized support, meaning that students that receive OT services, that have time on their IEP, that distance learning just is not conducive to fulfilling those needs. And once again, we can have a group of up to 14 students with 2 adults, meaning that they are a stable cohort, so they're not intermingling with anybody else. We would have to determine that eligible population. We would work with our labor partners to determine what it is going to look like bringing students on campus. For example, for our special education testing and some of our LPAC testing, students have to report out their temperature 2 days before coming on campus. They have to sign into the front office when they get here. They have to have a mask and a face shield and gloves. They have to wash their hands prior to gloving up. They go into the room. We have a sneeze guard. There's 6 feet of separation between the student and the person giving the test. And then once they're done, they put all their face shield and gloves inside a plastic bag, a Ziploc bag. And then after they're done, the custodian comes in and disinfects the room. So it's a very prescribed process that we have in place for everyone's protection. Do we need a waiver for this? No, but it's something that has to be highly regulated. Surveillance of testing staff is recommended, but it's not necessarily required. And at this point right now, with a 4 or 5 day return time, it's not effective to send people in to get them tested right now. And then on the bottom part of the infographic is that when we come back to a hybrid learning model, we can use instruction in small, stable cohorts as practicable. Remember when we first started this, they said 16 students. Well, now they said 14 students with a maximum of 2 adults. Only resume after Contra Costa County has been out of the purple status, monitoring for up to 14 days. And again, that surveillancing of staff with testing is recommended but not required. And once those, until we have an effective way to get testing results back in a timely manner, testing does nothing for us right now, with a 5 day return time. Literally, the employees would have to sit out for 5 days until those tests come back as negative, but then they have a chance to get infected within those 5 days and actually get a negative result and then come back and be an asymptomatic spreader. So it's a really difficult decision to do this. But with the specialized and targeted support in there, we cannot have any more than 25% of our students on campus at any given time. So we're working towards this. We're starting to get this process going with our special education testing and looking to branch out with some of our intervention services for our other students that need a little extra help. It's a slow process, and the reason it's slow is we want to make sure that we get it right. We're dealing with people's health here, and we can't afford to make a mistake. So that's kind of our update right now. But the good news is we actually have some kids coming on campus now to do some of that testing that we need done. And once we get that into play, that could possibly open the door to other services. But we're going to see how Labor Day plays out in the next 2 weeks, and see what happens with our numbers. They've been pretty steady, and which is a good thing. They haven't been on the rise. So the problem I see for coming up is as the weather cools off, people will not be outside as much anymore. They'll be inside, and when people are inside, that's when they congregate, and that's part of the spread right there. Mm-hmm. So that's how come flu season gets bad, is because it gets cold, and when it's cold, we want to sit inside and kick back on the couch next to one another, and that's not conducive. So to not sharing germs. But that was my little COVID update for the week.
Okay, thank you very much.
Yep.
Do we have any future agenda items that anyone wants to put on next meeting? We have a special meeting next time, right? Correct?
We have a meeting on the 21st. It's a public hearing. Okay. It's a public hearing for our new LCAP, the Learning Continuity and Attendance Plan. Not the learning or the Local Control and Accountability Plan. It has the same acronym, but it's different. So that will be on the 21st. We have the public hearing, and it'll basically be highlighting our plan to navigate through the COVID mess. And then we'll have our regularly scheduled board meeting on Wednesday, the 23rd, where, fingers crossed, we'll have a candidate ready to bring forward to the board to seek approval for the Old River principal and director of special education. So,
sounds good. Okay.
All right.
Okay. Well, we're going to adjourn the meeting at 7:35 to our next special board meeting on September 21st.
All right.
Okay.
See you then.
All right, everybody.